Hello and welcome to the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, where stories become lessons and every journey has something to teach us. Every week I sit down with people from all walks of life to hear their adventures, explore their experiences, and uncover the insights that have shaped them along the way. Whether it's from the outdoors, the classroom, or any other path, each conversation offers a fresh perspective on learning, growth, and what it means to truly connect with the world and the people around us. And on this week's episode of the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, we have James Lee from James Visits Museums. James, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, doing very well, man. Thank you for being here. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no problem at all. So my name is Dr. James Lees. I am a physicist, science communicator, and now weird museum man. So I do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So my actual formal education, if you'd like, is as a physicist, and I was a physics lecturer. But I'm also a science communicator as well as that. So that can be everything and anything. That has been from, books, YouTube, TV, workshops, schools, all the way to dressing up as 17th century scientists and prancing around a house in damask waistcoats and stockings for a weekend. So just sort of anything really that helps communicate science.
Don't we all? Isn't that? Well, a fantastic and interesting background. I came across you, as many people will have, on Instagram through your channel, James Visits Museums, which is just, not only is it fascinating, it speaks to my heart a little bit. My wife and I pride ourselves in trying to find roadside oddities, peculiar museums, and to this day, our favorite one is the National Mustard Museum that is outside of Madison, Wisconsin, here in the States. And I don't even particularly care for mustard. Still my favorite museum I've ever visited. And I highly recommend it. So, fell in love with your Instagram channel sort of through that, because I was like, there's my people. There we go. But what first sparked your love of museums? Is this something you've always carried with you or something you grew into?
Yeah, well, so I think I've always enjoyed museums. As a kid, we often went to museums and did the things, and I'd go and see them and so on and so forth. But it was literally just before the pandemic. I remember there was 3 cases in York at the time, which is where I was doing my PhD, and there was 3 cases in Paris where I went for a conference. And it was the first time really that I'd ever traveled solo.
Right.
I'd always been with family and so on beforehand. And effectively what I did in a morning, because I went to a conference, did that for a few days, had a few days after, and I just pick a direction and just go and see what was in that direction and find a whole bunch of museums along the way. And I went, this is great. I really enjoy this. Then the pandemic happened. So obviously not a lot happened for a couple of years there.
Right.
But as we were coming out of the pandemic again, this is literally because I went to a conference in Boston, and it was like up to the wire as if I was going to be allowed in the country, because they hadn't lifted restrictions at this point. Anyway, That ended up happening. Get to Boston, do exactly the same thing. I had a bit of time, and I actually, delayed it by a week and just did the same thing in New York. And then after that, every holiday would be, okay, I'm going to a place. I'm just going to find loads of museums and go and see them and do that sort of stuff. And I started mapping out where all the different museums are, so I could know, clusters of museums, what's there, what's interesting, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of where the love has come from, is just picking up, okay, I want to see museums. The next natural step of this is to really understand what museums are there that I'm going to go and see. And from there, I've visited, so I counted it up. I've kept a list, and I have visited more than 500 museums in the last 5 years, in 5 different continents.
That's, sort of breaking it down. Yeah, one every 3 days or something, every 4 days. That's incredible.
It kind of works out something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's an incredible run. And did you decide to start documenting these? I'm not sure if you're on other social media platforms, but on Instagram from the beginning, or did you have sort of a brainwave at some point and said, I should really
Yeah. So no is the short answer, right?
Right.
This was never the plan. This has always been a personal thing. I enjoy going to these museums. A couple of years ago, I started getting involved with sort of museum design and creative. Sort of through the science communication stuff, I started interfacing with some museums and that sort of thing. And then it was about 2 months ago. I was at a conference, and I was I was invited to this conference to talk to people about science communication. They're sort of PhD students, and getting into the world of science communication. And my talk was basically, I stood up and said, "It's awful. No one has any money. Everything is terrible." And there was a few other people at this conference who were giving talks as well, where they're like, "Actually, everything's amazing." And they're like, "Oh, it's because we do social media," and they're getting money thrown at them from sponsorships and all that sort of stuff. Now, that has never been my plan, right? I don't expect this to. In fact, I didn't expect it to get this far. Let's be quite frank. I was getting a few thousand views. I was very happy with that, and then this one's gone a bit crazy. But basically, the idea was, okay, I've always resisted doing social media and kept to more traditional formats. I've always said I could do whatever. Put my money where my mouth is, and let's do weird museums. I feel I've got a lot to talk about. I've done a lot of weird museums in my time and understand why and what they are. So, hey, let's give it a go. And so far, it's gone a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was sort of deep diving into the map that you've made. Oh, just a few days ago, and realized that there's an unusual museum a 20-minute drive from where I am that I had no idea about. And I think that's probably going to happen to a lot of people. There's going to be things on their doorstep, that they just had no idea about. I can't remember how many thousand now. I think it's well over 1,000 toilet seat covers.
You're at that one. Yeah.
The toilet seat cover art.
It's sort of in a bunch of shipping containers somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's in a place called the Truck Yard, which is, I think, sort of this restaurants and even a music stage and things not far from me. And it's like, now I've got to go. I had no idea. Need to go and see that art.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's something that how museums are set up, which is something you just touched on briefly.
Yeah.
I'm from Glasgow, and years ago one of the times I was back home, I went to the Transport Museum that's there, and it had been completely redesigned. It had been shut for a couple of years. They'd spent who knows how many millions redoing it, and brought in somebody whose name I've forgotten, and probably a good thing, who had redesigned the inside of it. And now so many of the cars and other vehicles were on these huge shelves going up the wall, so you could almost just see the bottom of them. You couldn't see in them. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, what a terrible design. Because there's all these kids running around pointing up at these cars, and they just want to, I know some of these things you can't touch, but they just want to be able to feel them and see in them. And I thought, who put these things on massive shelves? And ever since then, if I visit a museum, I was lucky enough earlier this year to go to a few of the Smithsonian's. And now I'm paying attention to not just what's there, but how is it displayed? How is it organized? How is the museum constructed to take you on a journey? And I think it's really interesting. And I didn't realize quite how fascinating it was. Let's think. I was trying to think about the most surprising thing you may have ever seen. There's got to be a list, and trying to narrow this down. There's got to be something you've seen in a museum. And I'd love to hear a little story. There's probably many.
Absolutely. There's loads of things, and this is kind of the one for the museum nerds, right? The best museum I have ever been to, and it is on the map. And I'm going to kind of spoil it for people. If if you want to stop after I say what it is, then go. Great. It's the Museum of Jurassic Technology in no, what's it called? Los Angeles. Thank you. Museum of Jurassic Technology in Los Angeles. Now, I had no idea what this was. We were doing a road trip through parts of America. Just before I ended up leaving. I lived there for a little bit. On the way out, a friend came over and we just did a bit of a road trip around California, Las Vegas, that sort of stuff. And I don't know, I'd looked at the website, been like, yeah, that looks cool enough. Fine, it goes on the list. Let's go. So we head to that, and I didn't really know what to expect. And you went in and sat down, and there was just a very strange video. And I turned to my friend, I was like, is this another cult? If we come to another museum that's run by a cult, this is okay. And then we're going through the exhibits, and you have the Hall of Russian space dogs, which is nothing but portraits of the dogs from Russia that went to space. You've got an entire exhibit about Victorian like theatre props. You've got another one which is the Library of Napoleon, which is just nothing but books about Napoleon. Another one which is 2 rooms about some random California physicist that no one has ever heard of, and how he fell in love with some random opera singer that nobody has ever heard of. And there's just room after room of this bizarre, eclectic collections. Now, to me, it is a museum about museums, and it is a bit of a statement on what is it that we choose to present and how we present it. And to be honest, this is probably actually one of the things that really kickstarted my love of museums as an art form, as a science, if you like, was this idea of these things were all presented very seriously. And, we might talk about sort of the curiosity cabinets and so on, where it's just a whole bunch of weird stuff in a room. And that's sort of all it is. It could have been the same thing, but it was presented with a very serious face. And I think that made quite an impression on me.
Super interesting. I've been out to Los Angeles just once, and there's so much more I want to explore out there. And now that is been scribbled on my notes as a place to check out, because I think that would be fascinating. But you're right, it's the presentation. How these things are presented. I mentioned to you earlier, now I can't remember if it was on air or off, the National Mustard Museum up in Madison, Wisconsin. To this day, my favorite museum. And I don't like mustard, but the way it was presented and the storytelling and the passion people had, there was a couple of people who worked there and a couple of volunteers, but you could feel the passion, and I think I could relate to the nerdiness that I feel about other things that they had for mustard. Like, you could see the twinkle in their eye when they spoke about it. And even if I don't share that, I could feel it, and I loved it. And I think to me, that's the sign of a great museum, is one that can draw you into that passion.
Yeah. So, because this is one of the things that I get a lot looking at these sort of weird museums, right? So let's take the Mustard Museum. We've actually got 3 different mustard museums. There's a National Mustard Museum in Middleton. You've also got Ray's Mustard Mill over in Eastport. And there's also a mustard museum. That's German. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
It's the Middleton one. I believe that's just outside of Madison, Wisconsin, I believe.
Yeah. And then there's another one. Sorry, it's not in Germany. It's in the Netherlands, but I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. Right. But all these things, right? The mustard museums. Let's take the Stavanger Canning Museum. You've got washing machine museums. You've got granite museums. You've got salt museums. You've got mug museums, the chair museum, right? There's all of these different things. And really, usually, they are, of course, they're about the thing, but actually the story they're telling is of the people that made that thing, the people that interacted with that thing. And these objects are your entryway. They're a focal point that you can build a story of a people, of a location around. And it's how they tell that story that's really what interests me.
I think that's almost a universal truth. Speaking to the academic in you, I went to a talk a friend was giving a few months ago, and she's done some clinical research into the Appalachian Trail, and interviewed hikers before they went on it, I think while they were on it, and certainly when they finished, about basically what were they looking forward to, what were their hopes and dreams, what did they think it would be like, and then of course on the other end. And the biggest swing was away from the scenery and all the views, which were amazing. That's what people were looking forward to. What they actually enjoyed the most was the people and hearing their stories. Why were they on the trail? Why were they walking 2,000 plus miles? And that's what people were going to miss the most, not just the scenery. And I think that there's a correlation there with the museum life, the museum world.
Definitely.
It is about the people. Something I think I would be amiss if I didn't ask you. Night in the Museum, Night in a Museum, the movie. If you could
Right.
spend one night in a museum by yourself, you got the whole place to yourself. What
Oh,
museum do you think you would like to spend the night in?
so the very definition of a problematic fave is the
Yes,
British Museum.
right,
Um, as I've said before, it's the best museum in the world because we grabbed all the best stuff and put it in one place. So of course it's amazing.
right.
It's incredibly well funded. The people that they have in there are enormously talented in what they do. They have, world leading experts curating those collections, working on the stuff there. It is the ideal institution. There are issues with it, and
Right.
those issues are being addressed in one way or another. Let's not say perfectly, and I'm not going to go to bat for everything, but
Right.
um, it is ultimately a really, really fantastic museum. It's a great place to visit, and they just have an incredible collection.
I love it. So moving on from that, I was thinking about, and this is two questions, but it could end up just being one, about a dream museum that you have A, not been to
Oh.
yet, and B, what are your plans for, say, the rest of this year or even next year? What's on the list that you are going to get to?
Okay, so my dream museum, and I have made steps towards this. I've worked with Florence Pugh, who was the director of the Vagina Museum in London. She started a whole program about small museums, and I had some chats with her to try and get something in the works. For various life reasons, nothing ever came of it. But my idea that I do really want to do is the Museum of Five Objects, which is one of my big problems with a lot of museums is they've got a lot of stuff
Right.
and they don't do anything with that stuff, and ultimately a lot of that stuff doesn't matter. So what I want to do is to create a museum that has just five things in it, but you really get to know those five things, right? What they are almost doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me.
Right.
Obviously it would do, in building the museum and so on, but it's a story that is told through these five objects, presumably some sort of AV, right? There's details. But again, it's a complete story based around the five things rather than just being, look, here's a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm not saying I want every museum in the world to end up like
Of
this,
course.
but I think that would be a really interesting challenge to put together, and it's something I have made some steps towards, but it's
Yeah.
not gone anywhere as of yet.
I love that idea of doing that. It reminds me of one of my favorite authors is Bill Bryson, and
Ah,
he's written a book or wrote a book called At Home, where he sort of just goes around to his home. I think it's in the Yorkshire Dales, actually. I don't know if he still lives there, but would look at these small objects like
mhm.
like the his keys or the keyhole or some things around the house and
Yeah,
draw these brilliant stories out of them about the history of what actually it takes to kind of put this home together.
yeah,
It's
yeah, exactly.
hundreds of years, thousands of years of technology, thousands of people have somehow all come together to
To
make the
this
place he
thing.
calls home. And I think that it's brilliant. It gets the story, but the object doesn't really matter in the end. It's the story
Yeah,
behind it.
yeah, no, that's definitely something I'd like to do. And as for what's coming next, so
Yes.
broadly by and large and speaking, so I also work. I do lots of things.
Yeah.
I do also whatever pays, and also a lot of stuff that doesn't pay as
Right.
well. So next, I'm actually off out. I work as an astronomer on cruise ships, so I will be out this weekend. I'm off to Malta, and we'll be going around the Med, and then I'm back for a bit, and then I'm off doing sort of Rome to Istanbul.
Right.
So lots of new museums to go and I've never been to some of these places before, so lots of new museums and stuff to go and visit there. So definitely be doing stuff on that. Um, but beyond that, I don't really know. Right? It's
And
it's
this,
it's
Now, I've got to ask you about an astronomer on a cruise ship. Are you looking at constellations, things like that, and then you'll have a small crowd around you explaining what's in
Yeah,
the sky? Is that kind of it?
yeah. So some of these ones. So I've done work or done or will do work with P&O, Cunard, Fred Olsen, those sorts of things to yeah, basically, hello, I'm your friendly astronomer. We're going to do some night sessions. We're going to do some talks. We're just going to, do star stuff really, and obviously weather dependent. Though usually in the Med in the middle of the summer, it's pretty
Right,
good weather,
right. Clear skies, yeah.
clear skies. No, fantastic. And just having a look around and doing, yeah, that sort of stuff. I mean, so I did one earlier this year where I went from Southampton all the way down to Buenos Aires.
Goodness, that's
So yeah, we got to see the full tilt of the planet, which was, and every night we were going out, there were brand new stars on the horizon. So that was really fantastic to be able to do it that way. And also working with other ones as well, sort of doing these sort of tours. I'm hoping next year to go out to Egypt and do a Egyptian astronomy going up the Nile sort of thing. So there's some weird and wonderful things if you can find them.
Yeah, I love it. It just, yeah, you're opening up this whole new world to me. I didn't know existed. I've never thought about the fact what a great thing that would be to be on a cruise ship and to be able to
Yeah,
have
no,
some of
it's
this great.
amazing fun.
Yeah, yeah. I had no idea. No idea. I love it. We both have a passion for education. Obviously, these are
Yeah.
fields we've either worked or work in. If a classroom could borrow an idea from a museum to make it more interactive for kids,
Oh,
what do you think? Is it something you've maybe seen or just a general kind of overreaching lesson? Because that's often the issue we face in classrooms is engagement and getting students really involved in what we're trying to teach. Is there anything you might have seen in a
yeah.
museum that has made you think, man, if we did that in a classroom, the kids would eat it up?
It's hard to say
Hmm.
because classrooms and museums are just totally different spaces.
Right.
And I would argue, so whenever I go into classrooms and I give workshops and so on and so forth, I know that I am the benefit of the fact that I am someone new. Right, I'm coming in, I'm doing something exciting.
Yes.
The kids are going to be a lot better behaved for me. They're going to be far more interested in what it is I have to say than if their teacher was going to do the same thing. And I think one of the big things that museums have and that museums can offer is that they are a physical space. Um, there was a lot of stuff over COVID around museums online and collections, and I think that is fantastic. And don't get me wrong, I would encourage any museum to make its collection as widely available as possible and have online archives and so on. But I think it really struggles to capture um, museumness. Really, that a museum I think is first and foremost a space. Um, so how can we bring that sort of thing into a classroom? Well, very tricky. Um, what you could do, I suppose, is this idea of building a story around an object. And again, and this is a known technique, right? This is something that teachers do, and it's not something brand new. But you could bring in a physical totem and have, okay, kids, we are, maybe what is this? Then perhaps by the end, okay, now can you tell me what it is, right? This idea of a physical thing
Right.
that people can do, because I think this is something that that has to really matter. So one of the things I've always said, I've got loads of ideas about weird museums we could make, and one of them would be the best museum in the world, where absolutely everything is a replica. It's all fake.
Right.
But that means we've got everything. We've got Mona Lisa. We've got the Rosetta Stone. We've got King Tut, right? Absolutely everything. The best museum in the world because it's got all the stuff that you know. Now, how interesting actually is that as a museum? That's a question I can't really answer. I think it would do fine. I think people would be interested. But who cares about a fake Mona Lisa?
Right.
So, therefore, if we're working backwards, I appreciate I'm going, follow me here.
Yep.
Working backwards, people really care about a thing being real and a thing being physical.
Right.
And we can make arguments about people don't know what they look like or what they're looking at. that's a whole other tangent. But to be able to bring something real as a focal point into a classroom, I think could be quite powerful. So one of the projects that I didn't work on it myself, but I was sat on the board that sort of funding and evaluation and so on, is the Moon Meteorite Project, where they are sending a piece of the moon around the UK, and you as a school can get a bit of the moon. And obviously there's all the activities that go along with it, right? You know, there's some videos you can watch, and there's lesson plans, and there's all of that sort of stuff. But actually what people are really excited about is, here's our bit of the moon, right? This is a real piece of the moon. This is a real, you know, and some meteorites as well. Like, this is some real meteorites that you can touch, that you can physically, well, touching maybe less so, but yes. Right? Here's a physical, right, real thing. Yeah. So I think there's stuff like that that could help focus, but I think the two things are very different, so it's not easy to transfer one. You know, I could say, well, every classroom should be like a museum, but we both know that's right. Not practical.
Not practical. We're not exactly awash with funding in it.
No. Honestly, some days keeping all the children alive is a win in and of itself.
Absolutely, I've been there many times myself. I've got two questions for you as we kind of wrap this up. My first is, I'm just going to dip my toe into some emotions here, and I was thinking, when I like to do some hiking, I go on multi-day trips here and there, and sometimes you see a view and it stars up. You know, this is incredible. And I was curious if what museum, if there indeed has been one, has stirred up an emotion in you that you weren't expecting or anticipating. Like, it's almost been overwhelming.
Oh, now isn't that a question? I'm gonna have to say I'm very bad at emotions. I can tell you a couple of stories though. So one of the best experiences I had and that I came away from really, really delighted was sadly it no longer exists from what I can tell, the Estonian Coin Museum in Tallinn, which was literally a room with a like a archivist's set of drawers. That was it. That was the whole museum, was this guy in a room. But the stories he told of these coins and how, what they were and how they had come to be, wove such a tale that, you know, you couldn't help but coming out of that grinning, ear to ear joy from that one. Very similar in, there's a Lego museum in Krakow, which name escapes me at the moment. And the guy in there, again, he was just weaving such tales about this collection. At one point, his wife called him up to, someone else had wanted to talk to him about something, and he just couldn't stop talking about this stuff. And to just sit and talk about, here's someone talk about what they love. It's Swiat Wallach Technikau. That's probably an absolute destruction of what it's actually called. It's run by a guy called Peter. And he, it's when you get someone that really loves their museum, right? That is usually what awes me rather than the museum itself. I mean, some of them have this wonderful grand architecture. I remember seeing the Natural History Museum in London's Minerals Gallery for the first time, right? And I don't know why that really sticks with me, and stuff like that, or the Natural History Museum again in New York. There's there are vistas, but again, it's the people and the things. I mean, again, the opposing story for that went to the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. Very famous collection in this beautiful, beautiful building, and we're walking along. I was actually with my dad, and I looked at someone, God, these ones are a bit rubbish, aren't they? Who did these ones? Lean in to look at the little plaque. Oh, Monet. Oh, so, so again, I would always say for museums, it is the stories that they tell, more than the pictures that they show you. Though, of course, there are so many that are absolutely gorgeous, and neoclassical buildings, again, not without their problems, but they are very pretty.
Yeah, I love it. And you've just reminded me of a story of my mum came to visit me here. It's been over a decade when she was here, and we went to a place called the Kimball Art Museum, which is I live in the Dallas area, and it's quite well renowned. There's some world-class pieces there. It's very well privately funded. So but we went. It was the first time I had been, I think, and we sat down and we were just sitting looking at the paintings. And my mum is quite she knows quite a bit about art. She does. She's quite an enthusiast, and she was explaining to me why the figures are not in the middle of the painting and they're off to the side. And this artist would always do his paintings in thirds.
Yeah.
And then we had a discussion. I don't know how it started about frames. And I think I
Sure.
asked her, I was like, do these frames, like, are these the original frames, or when they transport them from museum to museum, do the frames, yeah, they're the same ones? Do different museums use different? Are there certain types of frames for certain types of paintings? And we had a really good conversation. And now, if I
Mm.
ever think of that museum, I ever see that the couple of pieces of art, I think about that moment with my mother, sitting there,
Yeah.
having this
Yeah.
lovely conversation. And
Yeah. And
yes,
yeah, art galleries annoy me.
right,
I'm a bit, you can probably tell from my story before, I'm a bit of a Philistine.
right.
But so I've been, life turns in weird ways. I've been fortunate enough to have extended periods sitting and eating with quite a few Royal Academicians. So
Go with it. Yeah.
fellows of the Royal Academy from London, who, we're talking like top art people. And I've got to talk to them a lot about art and really get an understanding. And they're generally speaking contemporary artists. And I'm one of the people that you contemporary art, and you're like, what's going on? And from what I have come to understand from them, and it's one of those things that I have a book plan written out. It's never got anywhere, but could do about modern art for people who hate modern art. But the thing is, contemporary art is almost always a response to something. They are not standalone pieces. And actually, I think this is very true of older art as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was always made and designed within a very specific context. But a lot of museums, they're not in that context anymore, right? A lot of art galleries, they simply are there. And if you're lucky, you'll get a title, a year, and an artist. And it just means nothing, right?
Yeah, completely agree. That's it. I'm not one for art museums, but I think when some of the technique got explained to me, it
Right.
brought some humanity to it.
Right, yeah. So these pieces, and a lot of these contemporary art pieces, if you look at them, they mean nothing. They're insane. They're ridiculous, right? A child could have done this.
Mm-hmm.
But the story there is, why was it made in that particular way? Now, again, that story might not be, I'm not gonna go to bat for all of the stuff that exists, but there is a story there. And art galleries are way, way, way worse than museums at actually trying to tell you what is that story.
Right.
The one that stands out to me, I'm gonna do myself in here, trying to remember exactly where it is. It's in the middle
I'll
of
buy
the
a little
UK.
time for you.
Yeah, go on, buy us a little time.
When you're talking about this, I'm just thinking about Banksy. And we could do we could have a huge conversation. The art itself is not necessarily anything spectacular, but the meaning, the story, the location, all of that's what draws people in, right?
Yeah, and lots of people love Banksy, right? My mum doesn't like contemporary art, but she loves Banksy because she can understand it. And he is, I know he is derided by the greater art world as, sort of like, oh, it's a bit basic, isn't it? Because it is. Because it is, people can understand it.
Yeah.
We could go in circles about this, and I do want to let you move on. But very quickly, it's the Derby Museum and Art Gallery in Derby. Funnily enough, they have all sorts of things, right? It's all sorts of local history and all sorts of things like that. But within that, they have a particular gallery on one particular artist who, I really should have looked this one up whilst I was at it as well.
You're fine. It's
He was quite famous for doing. Is it this Anthony Eaton? No. The Philosopher Lecturing to the Orrery. That's the one that I know, and that was done by. So, as a scientist, obviously, I love science and a lot of science history as well. That's what I've done most of my writing on. But there's an artist called Joseph Wright, who did lots of these paintings in sort of the late 1700s about science. And he did a lot of stuff with light. So A Philosopher Lecturing to the Orrery is a famous one. There's an orrery in the middle and the light is coming from it and it's lighting up all of their faces. And he did, alchemists with glasses, all that sort of stuff.
right.
And this exhibit wasn't just, he's from Derby, which is why there's a room about him in the Derby one. It wasn't just here's his paintings. It was a full tour of, okay, here's where he started, and his big thing was playing with light, so here's how he was playing with light, here's what he was interested with. You knew him and his story, so when you were looking at the paintings you could actually see what was going on rather than just here's this pretty painting from the 1700s.
That's what we need, to be able to connect what we are and what we know to the painting and the story that takes us there. I love it. Well, my final question for you is, and I'm trying to think how to phrase this, and again, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh, dear.
It's twofold. This question. I'd like you to transport yourself. You could go to any museum in the world, any museum, and you could take somebody with you. This could be somebody dead, alive, famous, somebody you know personally, somebody you've met, somebody you've not met. Again, this is an unusual question, but I thought I had to tailor this for you. Who would you like to be able to walk around a museum with? You have that person all to yourself, and where is it you would like to go with them?
Okay, so there's lots of, I won't go as far as trite, but, answers about, dead relatives and so on and so forth. But what I'm going to go for, I would like you to Google, please, the keeper of the ancient Mesopotamian collection at the British Museum, one Irving Finkel. But before you do that, I want you to picture in your mind what you think this man will look like.
All right, I'm kind of hoping he's got like a quirky handlebar mustache and a pocket watch and something like that.
Irving Finkel, IRVINGFINKEL.
Okay. There we go. All right. I'm not all that far off. And that looks like a man I would like to have a beer with. I would like to sit down with him.
I was working an event once, and he came to speak at that.
Right.
And beforehand, we were organizing. I was on the organizing team, and we said to the chair, "Look, it's going to be a while." He'd been there for something in the morning. Take him to the Fat Badger around the corner. And they'd had a few more than we'd expected. So he came to give a talk about his new book, which is frankly dreadful. It was a fiction book. He should not be writing fiction. But he was a little bit sozzled,
right?
Talking about barely even about the book, but about the story of him writing this book. And he is just everything you would expect from one of these older academics. Very knowledgeable about his subjects, very free and open with that knowledge, and not really much pretension to him at all. What you see is very much what you get.
Right.
So I think going to maybe something in the sort of the area that he knows about. With him, I think that would be an amazing time.
I would like to I'd like hang on your coattails and be there. I love it. What a great answer. Now I'm going to have to look this guy up. If our listeners would like to get in touch with you, ask you a question, find out some more about museums, astronomy, all these things that you are interested in, how can they find you? Where can people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So you can find me either on TikTok or Instagram under James Visits Museums, or you can email me, jamesvisitsmuseums@gmail.com. I'm happy to talk to you there. I do also have a website for more of my physicsy based stuff, and that is jamesleesphysics.com.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. James Lees, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you for having me.
A great conversation. Thank you. Thank you again to this week's guest, and I hope today's episode was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, and perhaps even inspired your next adventure. If you